Somebody has told you about the pepper. Half a shaker of coarse ground black pepper into the radiator, run it warm, and the drip stops before you finish your coffee. That is a real trick. It is not a joke, and it is not a story. Men in service bays did it, and the man who told you about it was not fooling you. Here is why it worked. Ground pepper is not a powder, it is husk, and husk swells when it gets wet and hot. The coolant carries it, and where coolant is escaping, there is flow. So the particles follow the flow straight to the hole, pile up against the edges, and jam. That is the identical principle behind every bottle of stop leak on the shelf today. Pepper was just the version already in the kitchen. Then the radiator changed underneath the trick. A radiator in 1962 was brass and copper with wide round tubes and a cap holding maybe 4 pounds. Today, it is aluminum with plastic tanks. The tubes are narrow and flat, and the cap holds 16 pounds or more. At 16 pounds, the coolant blows straight past a soft plug, and the pepper that does not find your pinhole keeps circulating until it reaches the tightest passage in the whole car, which is the heater core behind your dash. And that repair is $900 to $1,800 because the dash has to come out. So it did not die because anybody hit it. It died because the thing it worked on stopped being built, and nobody told the men still passing it down. I spent 30 years in a shop with a lift and a hoist, most of it under trucks that overheated for a living. By the end of this, you will know when pepper still applies, how to find the actual leak in 10 minutes for free, and the 2 mistakes that turn a $40 hose into a cracked head. Number 18 is the free test that names your leak, and the tool for it costs nothing at the parts counter. Number 12 is the one place a modern sealer belongs, and the 3 places it never does. And number 1 takes 3 minutes a month, and it is the reason a shopman never once boiled a truck on a grade. These 25 tricks were never about a shaker of pepper. They were about men who understood that a cooling system is a closed circuit under pressure, and a circuit under pressure will always tell you exactly where it is failing if somebody is willing to look. Let us count down the 25 things they knew about a leaking radiator. Number 25. When pepper still applies. If you are 40 miles from anywhere in a car with an original brass and copper radiator and the choice is a shaker or a tow, use it. It is a get-home measure and never a repair, and the system gets drained and flushed the same week. A shopman in 1962 used it that way and no other way. It was never a fix. It was a way to finish the trip. Number 24. Knowing which radiator you own. Look at the tanks. Plastic top or side tanks crimped onto a metal core means modern aluminum, and nothing thickening goes in it. Metal tanks with a soldered seam mean brass and copper, and that system is far more forgiving. That takes 10 seconds with the hood up. Every piece of advice about radiators splits at that line, and almost nobody tells you which side you're standing on. Number 23. Reading the cap rating. Stamped on the top of every pressure cap is a number, usually between 13 and 18 pounds on a modern car. That number raises the boiling point of your coolant by about 3 degrees per pound, and it is also the pressure trying to push out through any weak spot. A garage man in 1962 read the cap first. The cap is not a lid. It is the pressure spec for the whole system. Number 22. Replacing a tired cap before anything else. The rubber seal in a cap hardens and shrinks within a few seasons, and a cap down 2 pounds boils a system that is otherwise perfect, then pushes coolant out the overflow and looks exactly like a leak. It is a $12 part. A station man in 1962 changed caps on site. It was rarely the radiator that boiled over. It was a seal that quit holding. Number 21. Never opening a hot system. Under pressure, the coolant sits well above its boiling point, so cracking a cap drops that pressure and turns the whole works to steam in your face. Scald burns from radiators put men in hospitals every summer. You wait until the upper hose is cool enough to squeeze bare-handed, then turn the cap slowly to its first stop and let it hiss. It is not impatience that burns a man. It is 2 minutes early. Number 20. Squeezing the hoses cold. Both hoses, engine cold. A good one is firm and springs back. Soft and mushy means it is delaminating inside and shedding rubber into the system. Hard and crackly means it is glazed and about to split. Both fail on a highway, never in a driveway. A fleet man in 1962 squeezed every hose he walked past. A hose does not fail without warning. It goes soft first, and nobody touches it. Number 19. Watching the overflow bottle instead of guessing. That translucent jug has a cold line and a hot line on the side, and where the coolant sits when the engine is stone cold is the only running record the system keeps. You check it in the same conditions every few weeks. A shopman in 1962 read the level before he opened anything. A jug that drops a half-inch a month is a leak talking quietly. Number 18. The free pressure test that names it. Any chain parts store lends a cooling system pressure tester at no charge on a refundable deposit. Cold engine, fit it to the filler neck, pump to the number on your cap and no higher, and walk the system with a flashlight. The leak shows itself. A shop charges $80 to $180 for exactly this. The tool costs you a deposit, you get back the same afternoon. Here's something nobody is counting. The men who ran radiator shops, who could rod out a clogged core by hand and sweat a tank back on and hand a man his own radiator back for $30, are nearly all gone, and the shops went with them. The youngest are past 80. They did not keep it in a manual. They kept it in their hands, over 30 years of leaning into hot engine bays with a light. When they go, the loaner tester stays on the counter at the parts store, free, exactly where it always was, and the knowing goes into the ground. That chain ran bench to apprentice for 50 years, and then the whole trade got replaced by a part number. If this is worth something to you, take 1 second right now and hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. That is the only reason a video like this ever reaches the next man who needs it. Number 17. Finding the leak with soap and water. With the system holding pressure, you spray plain soapy water over the seams, hoses, and fittings and watch. A leak too small to drip still pushes a white bubble that grows while you stand there. A station man in 1962 kept a bottle on the bench. A drip tells you there is a leak somewhere. The bubble tells you exactly which fitting. Number 16. Knowing the 6 places it always leaks. You do not search everywhere. It is the crimp seam, where a plastic tank meets the metal core, every hose end and clamp, the water pump weep hole, the thermostat housing, the heater hose fittings at the firewall, and the cap neck itself. That handful is nearly every cooling leak in the country. A Radiator man in 1962 put his hand on it in a minute. Leaks are not random. Number 15. Reading the water pump weep hole. Every pump has a small hole in its housing, and it is there by design to let coolant escape when the internal seal starts to go instead of pushing it into the bearing. A crusty stain around that hole is a pump telling you it has months, not years. A mechanic in 1962 checked it on every car. That hole is not a defect. It is the only warning a pump ever gives. Number 14. Catching the leak you cannot see. Some leaks only open under heat and pressure and are dry when you look. You clean the area with degreaser, drive it a few days, then go back with a light and follow the fresh, wet trail uphill to its source. A shopman in 1962 cleaned before he diagnosed. Gravity carries the evidence downhill. The highest wet point is the one leaking. Number 13. Watching for the sweet smell inside the car. If the windshield fogs with an oily film, the cabin smells sweet, and the passenger carpet is damp. That is the heater core leaking coolant into the cabin and into your lungs. This is not a comfort issue, and it does not wait. A garage man in 1962 pulled a floor mat to check. It is not the defroster failing, it is the radiator's small cousin behind the dash. Number 12. Where a modern sealer belongs, and where it never does. If you must get somewhere, a proper cooling system sealer is about $10 and formulated for modern metals, and it is a delay, not a repair, followed by a full flush. It never goes in a system with a heater core you cannot afford to lose, never in a car with a known head gasket problem, and never as maintenance. A fleet man in 1962 knew the difference between a bottle and a bill. Number 11. Never pouring cold water into a hot engine. Aluminum heads and iron blocks expand at different rates, and dumping cold water into a block running hot can warp or crack a head, which turns a $200 leak into a $2,500 job in about 4 seconds. You let it cool, then fill slowly with the engine idling. A mechanic in 1962 would not let a man near a hot engine with a jug. Heat did not crack that head. The rescue did. There is a reason nobody points you at a free loaner tool in a bottle of soap. Price it out. A cooling system pressure test is $80 to $180 before a single part is touched. A radiator on a modern car installed runs $600 to $1,200. A heater core is $900 to $1,800, almost all of it labor, to reach a part worth $90. And a heater core plugged by something an owner poured in gets billed as a repair, never as an accident. Now price the other side. The tester is a free loan. Soap and water, $1. A pressure cap, $12. A hose and 2 clamps, $30. A gallon of the correct coolant, $25. Under $70, and a Saturday stands between a man and the 4-figure version. The craft was not lost. It was made unprofitable, and then it was allowed to die. Do me one favor before we get to the top 9. Hit like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so the next one finds you. That is the entire price of this. Number 10. Using the coolant your car specifies. The colors are not decoration. Modern long-life formulas use organic acid inhibitors matched to the metals in that engine, and mixing types can drop the additives out as a gel that plugs the very passages they were meant to protect. You use what the cap or the manual says. A shopman in 1962 matched the fluid to the engine. It is not all antifreeze. It is a chemistry aimed at your metals. Number 9. Mixing with distilled water only. Tap water carries calcium and magnesium, and those minerals drop out as scale on the hottest surfaces in the engine, exactly where heat needs to move. Concentrate goes half and half with distilled, and premixed jugs are already made that way. A Radiator man in 1962 kept distilled on the bench. The coolant was never what clogged the block. The water was. Number 8. Burping the air out after any refill. Air trapped in a modern system collects as a pocket at the highest point, and an air pocket carries no heat, so the gauge climbs while the reservoir reads full. You fill with the front raised, run it with the cap off and the heat on high until the thermostat opens, and top it as the level drops. Half the overheats after a repair are not failed repairs. They are air nobody let out. Number 7. Clearing the radiator face. Bugs, leaves, and oil mist pack the fins solid, and a blocked face overheats in traffic while every part underneath tests perfect. You flush it gently from the engine side outward with low pressure, never a pressure washer, because bent fins do not come back. A Radiator man in 1962 cleaned before he ever quoted a record. It was not a tired radiator. It was a radiator wearing a coat. Number 6. Testing the thermostat in a pan on the stove. A $20 part strands more cars than almost anything here. You drop it in a pan of water with a thermometer, heat it, and watch it open within a few degrees of the number stamped on its flange. Late or not at all is your overheat. A mechanic in 1962 tested every one he pulled. It is a spring and a wax pellet, and you can watch it work. Number 5. Reading what the coolant looks like. Pull the cap cold and look. Clean and colored is right. Brown and cloudy means the inhibitors are spent and rust is loose in the system. An oily film on top or milky brown sludge under the oil cap means oil and coolant are meeting, and that is a head gasket, not a leak you can chase. A rebuilder in 1962 looked before he flushed. The coolant is the report. Number 4. Never running plain water long term. Water alone boils lower, freezes at 32 degrees, and carries no corrosion inhibitor, so it quietly eats the aluminum and iron from the inside while looking perfectly fine in the bottle. It is a get-home fluid, never a fill. A shopman in 1962 flushed water out the same week he put it in. Water cools the engine, it also dissolves it. Number 3, knowing the 6 points in owner checks. You do not inspect an engine. You touch 6 things: the overflow level cold, the cap and its seal, both hoses squeezed, the radiator face, the water pump weep hole, and the ground under the car. That is the entire cooling system as far as an owner needs it. A Radiator man in 1962 taught his customers those 6 and nothing else. It was never complicated, and it was never a secret. Number 2, the seasonal walk with a flashlight. Twice a year, cold engine, you go down those 6 points and put a hand on every hose. 10 minutes. It is not a repair. It is a standing appointment with the machine. A garage man in 1962 told his customers those minutes were worth more than anything his hands could do for them in August on the shoulder of a grade. The shop finds a leak after the gauge climbs. He found it while it was a stain. Number 1, looking at the overflow bottle every time you fill the tank. That is all. 3 minutes a month, cold, in your own driveway. Because every failure in this video announced itself first as a level that dropped a ½ inch and got topped up without a thought, and by the time the gauge moved, the damage was already bought. Your grandfather did this without calling it anything. He called it keeping an eye on it. Number 1 is not a trick. It is the look that makes the other 24 worth knowing. If this was worth your time, hit like, subscribe, and turn on that bell right now. It costs you nothing, and it is the whole reason I get to keep making these. None of this needed a certification, a scan tool, or a subscription to anything. It needed a flashlight, a bottle of soap, a borrowed pump, and a man who understood that a system under pressure always confesses before it strands anybody. That was the default setting in every bay in America, not confidence handed down from a classroom. Confidence built from having found enough leaks to know they all announce themselves the same way. We did not lose the tools. The pressure tester sits on the loaner counter at the parts store, free, right where it always was. We lost the hands that knew the 6 places to point it, and the old man who put his palm on a cold upper hose and said, "Feel that? That one is going soft. We will do it in the spring before it does it to you in July. So tell me down in the comments what you are driving and go look at your radiator tanks, plastic or metal with a soldered seam. That one detail decides half of what applies to your car, and it takes 30 seconds to find out. He is gone now, and most of what he knew went with him. But not all of it, because some of it is in this video, written down at last. So keep the pepper for the tailgate of a brass and copper car, 40 miles from home, where it belongs and where it still works. For everything else, borrow the pump and make the leak show you where it lives. Next time, I will show you how those same men found a failing head gasket with nothing but a cold radiator neck and 60 seconds of idling, weeks before it ever milked the oil. The craft is not dead. It is a free loan and a willing hand away.